Animals are often seen as our loyal companions, offering unconditional love. But what happens when these trusted animals turn against us? Here are some fatal cases of pets attacking their owners. Feline catastrophe. After her husband left her, Janet V found herself living alone. Her only companions were her beloved cat and dogs. These animals became her family, and she devoted all her time and energy to them. Janet was known to be a bit of a recluse. She didn't interact much with her neighbors and rarely left her home. Her pets were her world, providing all the comfort she needed after her separation. Weeks passed, and neighbors noticed something strange. Janet hadn't been seen in a long time, and her mailbox was overflowing with letters. Concerned, they called the police for a welfare check. The officers struggled to get inside due to the overgrown vegetation and clutter blocking the entrance. They finally managed to climb through a window, only to be met with a heartbreaking sight. Janet had died from a sudden health issue, and her body had remained undiscovered for days. With no food in the house, some of her cats, in a desperate attempt to survive, had resorted to consuming parts of Janet's body. The officers were shocked by what they saw. The surviving pets were taken to a local animal shelter, where they received care and attention. Despite the horrific incident, most of the cats were later rehomed. This tragic event highlights the challenges faced by elderly individuals living alone and emphasizes the importance of regular checkups and a strong support system. Mountain lion dilemma. Mountain lions, also known as pumas, are stealthy and powerful predators meant for the wilderness, not backyards. Yet, Amber Michelle Couch from Texas thought she could handle a mountain lion as a pet. Surprisingly, in Texas, owning a mountain lion is legal if you have the necessary permits and keep up with their vaccinations and health checks. However, Amber failed to comply with these legal requirements. The mountain lion was unvaccinated, and its small, confined cage made matters worse. Friends and family repeatedly warned her about the potential dangers, but Amber dismissed their concerns, claiming she had everything under control. One day, Amber's young nephew came to visit. Like most curious children, he was fascinated by the massive feline and got too close to its cage. In a flash, agitated by its cramped living conditions, the mountain lion lunged through the bars and sank its teeth into the child's face. The horrific attack left the boy with deep wounds and severe damage. As people around screamed in terror, Amber tried to pull her nephew away, but the damage was done. The child was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery to save his life. A long recovery process awaited him, requiring multiple surgeries to reconstruct his face. This incident sparked outrage among the local community and prompted action from the authorities. They seized the mountain lion and charged Amber with negligence and child endangerment. Amber was banned from owning any exotic pets until she could prove she could care for them. Ultimately, the mountain lion was euthanized due to the high risk it posed to public safety. Monitor lizard tragedy. Monitor lizards are powerful carnivorous reptiles known for their sharp claws, strong tails, and aggressive nature. These creatures can grow up to 8 feet long, making them challenging pets even for experienced reptile keepers. Ronald Huff, a reptile enthusiast from Delaware, had a particular fondness for these lizards. Despite concerns from his friends and family, he kept several large monitor lizards in his apartment. They worried for his safety, but Huff dismissed their concerns, confident in his ability to handle the reptiles. When one of his neighbors hadn't seen him for a few days, they requested a welfare check. Upon arrival, the police were met with a gruesome scene. Ronald Huff lay lifeless on the floor, his pet monitor lizard surrounding him. Even more disturbing, the lizard had begun to feed on his body. It was suspected that Huff might have suddenly fallen ill or died, and the lizards, driven by hunger, didn't distinguish between owner and prey. This chilling discovery highlights the extreme dangers of keeping such aggressive and unpredictable pets. Deprived of food, monitor lizards can exhibit feral behavior, attacking even their owners. Huff's tragic end is a stark reminder that these reptiles are not pets, but wild creatures whose natural instincts can be dangerous and even deadly. The risks of owning exotic pets are real, and stories like Huff's demonstrate the fatal consequences of underestimating them. African antelope tragedy. African antelopes are large, powerful animals typically seen roaming the African plains. They are known for their dramatic stampedes, much like the intense scene in The Lion King. Despite their wild nature, Klaus Dorinda, an animal lover and enthusiast, decided to adopt a young African antelope and raise it alongside his other exotic pets, including llamas and emus. Klaus believed that with enough care and attention, he could tame the African antelope and treat it almost like a large, unusual pet cow. As the African antelope matured, its natural instincts kicked in, especially during mating season, making it much more aggressive and territorial. Friends warned Klaus about the dangers of keeping such a wild animal, but he dismissed their concerns, confident in his animal handling skills. However, one day in 2004, when Klaus went to check on his animals as usual, things took a tragic turn. Hours passed, and when he didn't return, his wife went looking for him and stumbled upon a horrifying scene. Klaus lay motionless on the ground, severely injured. The African antelope had charged at him repeatedly, using its powerful horns and body weight to knock him down. Despite his experience with animals, Klaus stood no chance against the raw power and aggression of an African antelope in full attack mode. He succumbed to his injuries before help could arrive. This tragic incident serves as a grave reminder that wild animals, no matter how well we think we know them, are unpredictable and often unsuitable for life in captivity. Deadly serpent. Owning venomous snakes can be a thrilling but dangerous hobby. However, when it comes to the black mamba, the stakes are much higher. This snake is not just a venomous reptile, it's one of the deadliest on the planet. Its venom is potent enough to kill an adult human within hours. A black mamba bite can cause paralysis and respiratory failure if left untreated. Alita Stacy from Putnam Lake, New York, was an experienced snake enthusiast who had amassed a collection of over 70 reptiles. Her love for dangerous snakes led her to acquire a black mamba, a decision that would prove fatal. Friends and family repeatedly warned Stacy about the risks of keeping such a deadly creature in her home, but Stacy believed her experience could overcome any challenges. One fateful day, her boyfriend entered the reptile room to find her unconscious on the floor. The black mamba, normally kept securely in its glass enclosure, had escaped due to an improperly secured cage. The snake had bitten Stacy on the arm, and although emergency responders arrived quickly, the potent venom had spread through her body. Paramedics administered anti-venom, but the snake's neurotoxic bite had caused irreversible damage, leading to her tragic death. This incident is a chilling reminder of the deadly risks of keeping highly venomous pets. One small mistake or lapse in attention is all it takes for things to turn fatal. The allure of exotic pets can often overshadow the grave responsibility that comes with them, demonstrating that no matter how experienced you are, nature can be unpredictable and deadly. Deadly cassowary. Cassowaries may look like large turkeys with bright blue heads, but they are far from ordinary birds. Often referred to as the world's most dangerous bird, cassowaries can reach speeds of 31 miles per hour, and their legs are like spring-loaded weapons equipped with dagger-like claws. Marvin Hajos, an experienced bird breeder from Texas, had a particular fondness for exotic and unusual birds. He kept several cassowaries on his property, believing that his years of experience would keep him safe around these deadly birds. One fateful day, while feeding his cassowaries, Marvin stumbled and fell to the ground. The sudden movement startled one of the birds, triggering its natural defense instincts. The cassowary lunged at Marvin with lightning speed, attacking him with its razor-sharp claws. Despite his severe injuries, Marvin managed to call 911, but the damage was done. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Marvin had succumbed to his wounds. This incident shocked the local community and the animal enthusiast world. It was a brutal reminder of how dangerous exotic pets can be, even for experienced handlers. It's one thing to admire these incredible creatures from afar, but getting up close and personal can sometimes be a fatal mistake. It seems some animals are best left in the wild, where they can thrive on their own terms. Deer attack. When people think of deer, they often picture gentle, graceful creatures peacefully grazing in a meadow. However, these animals can be surprisingly aggressive, especially during rutting season when males are full of testosterone. Gerald Rushton, a deer enthusiast with a passion for exotic and unusual animals, kept several European red deer on his property. Known for their impressive antlers and powerful build, these deer were his pride and joy. He enjoyed showing them off to visitors, believing them to be harmless, like oversized pets. One morning, Gerald decided to enter the deer pen to feed his animals, as he had done countless times before. However, this time, one of the stags was in a foul mood, possibly feeling territorial or aggressive due to the breeding season. The 500-pound deer suddenly charged at Gerald. Using its massive antlers like a battering ram, it knocked him to the ground. The deer struck him repeatedly with its sharp antlers, leaving Gerald severely injured. Hearing the commotion, neighbors quickly called emergency services. Despite their swift response, it was too late. Gerald had succumbed to his injuries before paramedics could stabilize him. Gerald's death highlighted the risks of keeping large, unpredictable animals as pets, showing that nature's wild side is never far away, no matter how tame or gentle an animal may seem. Wapiti Incident. Imagine having a rare and exotic animal like a wapiti, a majestic hybrid of red deer and elk, as a pet in your backyard. For Pat McDonald, an Australian wildlife enthusiast, owning this unique creature was a dream come true. He admired the wapiti's impressive antlers and massive size, often showing it off to friends and family. However, Pat was unaware that this seemingly gentle giant would one day turn into a terrifying beast. On a quiet afternoon, Pat decided to feed the wapiti as usual. His wife Mandy and young son Ethan were at home, busy with their daily routines. Suddenly, they heard a blood-curdling scream. They rushed outside and were horrified to find Pat pinned to the ground, the wapiti aggressively attacking and mauling him. The animal's sudden shift from calmness to violence was shocking, leaving Pat no time to defend himself. Desperate to save her husband, Mandy jumped into the enclosure, armed with nothing but sheer determination. However, as she tried to fend off the wapiti, the animal turned its fury on her, knocking her to the ground. Mandy grabbed a stick, swinging it frantically, hoping to keep the animal at bay. Meanwhile, Ethan ran into the house to call for help. Amidst the chaos, a nearby ambulance officer noticed the commotion. He intervened immediately, distracting the wapiti long enough for the police to arrive and safely sedate the animal. Bruised and bleeding from deep cuts, Mandy was rushed to the local hospital. However, her injuries were so severe that she had to be airlifted to a better-equipped trauma center. Experts later suggested that the wapiti might have been experiencing hormonal changes or felt threatened by something in its environment, triggering its aggressive outburst. The incident served as a brutal reminder that even the most majestic creatures can turn dangerous in an instant, especially when kept as pets in unnatural environments. Python peril. Burmese pythons are among the largest snake species in the world, capable of reaching lengths of up to 20 feet and weighing over 200 pounds. Although they are not venomous, their immense size and strength make them incredibly dangerous. Jaron Hare and Charles Darnell, a couple from Florida, learned this the hard way. They owned a 8-foot albino Burmese python, keeping it in a poorly secured makeshift enclosure. Instead of using a proper cage, they covered it with a duvet and secured it with safety pins, clearly inadequate for containing such a powerful creature. In 2009, tragedy struck. During the night, the python escaped its flimsy enclosure and entered the bedroom of their young daughter, Cheyenne. In the morning, the couple woke to a horrifying sight. The snake had coiled itself tightly around their little girl, suffocating her in her sleep. Despite their desperate attempts to save her, it was too late. Authorities were called, and the python was removed from the home. The snake was later used in training exercises for animal control officers, highlighting the dangerous consequences of improper handling of exotic pets. Hare and Darnell faced charges of child neglect and manslaughter due to their negligent care of the python. They were sentenced to 12 years in prison, a harsh but necessa.